Okay, sir. And now I will start with, sir, Dr. Prem, sir, can I start with the...
Yes, you can start,
Yes, sir.
madam.
Okay.
Mrs. Vidya, because
Yes,
we know neuro-linguistic programming and also importance of recreational games, and also know the meaning and definition of all your dependent variables. So my request to you is that you can go ahead with the problem statement, hypothesis, research design, and from there you can continue. For want of time and because of the uncertainty, I think this is what I suggest to you.
Okay, sir. Okay. The objective of the study is to evaluate the efficacy of neural programming on the adaptive behavior of the institutional cognitive deficit and to ascertain if the neuro-linguistic programming can mitigate neuro-linguistic programming can mitigate maladaptive behavior in the institutionalized children with cognitive deficits. To determine the effect of neuro-linguistic programming, to determine the effect of neuro-linguistic programming on these children, and then to find out if effectiveness of the children, whether it can influence the resilience, and if recreational games can begin adaptive behavior in these institutionalized children, the effect of recreational games or the maladaptive behavior of the children who are living in the institution, especially the ones with cognitive deficit. Then to determine the efficacy of recreational games on the cognitive abilities of these children, to determine whether participating in recreational games can bring in resilience, and to find the difference between the effect of experimental that is the neuro-linguistic programming group as well as the recreational games group with that of the control group. So the assumptions for these studies is the hypothesis of with these assumptions in mind.
Vidya, can you remove your headphone?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, I didn't hear you. Louder. Okay. Assumptions of studies.
Sorry for interruption, Mrs. Vidya.
Yes,
the thing
sir.
is actually your words and the slides, I think do not match.
Okay, sir.
So please keep pushing the slides forward so that we have the words written clearly in front of us, and also the words spoken by you should match well.
Okay, sir.
Yeah.
Objectives of studies are over. Assumptions.
Share slideshow PowerPoint.
Good. Now I am happy.
Assumptions of studies. Assumptions, yes. Now we are talking about the assumptions of okay. We are talking about the assumptions of these studies based on which the hypotheses are framed, and it is based on the existing literature available. Keeping in mind these following assumptions, we have framed the hypothesis, that is institutionalization affects children's growth and development. Neuro-linguistic programming and reputational gains intervention can modify the behavior, cognition of institutionalized children. Innovative strategies can be identified, fine-tuned, and implemented to mitigate the effect of living in institution. That is the assumptions based. These are the assumptions based on which we have framed the hypothesis. The hypotheses are, the first hypothesis is, that is, I have divided it in, all the hypotheses have two sides of it. One is the neuro-linguistic part and the other one is the recreational part. Its first hypothesis is institutionalized children with cognitive deficit among the neuro-linguistic programming group would differ significantly from the control group in their verbal comprehension activities at the end of intervention, whereas the part B is the children who are undergoing the recreational game intervention would differ significantly with respect to the control group. The second hypothesis is the children who have a cognitive deficit, when they undergo the neuro-linguistic treatment, they would not differ significantly with respect to the control group as far as the this one is concerned. Perceptual reasoning is concerned. The next one is the recreational game group will not differ significantly with the perceptual reasoning at the end of intervention. That is a null hypothesis. We have a combination of both directional hypothesis and null hypothesis in this study. Wherever there is earlier work that is being done, there we have got a directional hypothesis. Where if there are no studies that are found, then we have gone into explorative studies where the null hypothesis is presented. The third hypothesis is that institutionalized children with cognitive deficit, when they undergo neuro-linguistic programming, they would not differ significantly in their working memory. The same thing with the recreational group also, they would not, because we did not find many effective research work that is substantiating that directional hypothesis. Next, we go to the fourth one, is that of processing speed of the children in these with cognitive deficit among the neuro-linguistic programming would not differ significantly. Again, it is a null hypothesis, and that of children who are undergoing recreational games also would not differ significantly with the control group. Next, we'll come to the full-scale IQ of the children. The full-scale IQ also would not differ significantly when they undergo the neuro-linguistic programming, and they would not differ even with recreational games. So these two are also null hypotheses. Then we have research studies based on which we know that a positive effect of neuro-linguistic programming happens with communication as well as social skills. So that is why we frame a directional hypothesis here. So neuro-linguistic programming would have a positive effect on communication skill among the institutionalized children with cognitive deficit with respect to the control group. The same with the recreational games also, with the intervention would help in improving this communication skill in the children who are in the institution. So based on this framework, we have the module, this schedule also, that will come to it later on. So now the next hypothesis is 7, that is the socializing ability. As I told you, we have earlier the referral the research work. So socializing ability also improves with with the neuro-linguistic programming as well as recreational games. Then activities of daily living, that is how to take care of themselves, the self-grooming, then self-care. That aspect of it is tested in daily living skills. So that also gets does not find, we did not find much of a literature in that. That's why we have framed the alpha hypothesis there. Daily living skills with neurolinguistic programming as well as with recreational games would not show significant difference. That is what we have framed the null hypothesis for the eighth one. Then it is the same with motor skills, though we have a lot of literature where physical activity, especially in the field that we are in, we know very well that motor skills are an essential part of all physical activities. But even then, substantiating it as recreational games, we did not find much. So, recreational games, though we know it gives you agility, it gives you concentration, but then substantiating with such physical activity, yes, we have. Recreational games was something that we did not find much in. So that is one thing that we have gone with null hypothesis. Then the next one is that of external maladaptive behavior, that is attention-seeking behavior or showing tantrums that are in these institutionalized children would reduce significantly with neurolinguistic programming, because that was something that they had utilized and brought down the maladaptive behavior. The same thing with recreational games also. So the same, next is the internalizing of maladaptive behavior in institutionalized children with cognitive deficit would significantly reduce with neurolinguistic programming as when compared to the control group. The next one was internalizing the maladaptive behavior in institutionalized children with cognitive deficit would significantly reduce with the recreational group when compared to the control group. And then the 12th hypothesis was neurolinguistic programming intervention would significantly reduce the anxiety levels, as well as the same thing with the recreational group also. They would reduce anxiety. The next one is, I think I have gone until 12, then the 13th one is that of there will not be any significant difference in depression with children of neurolinguistic programming with that of the control group. The same thing with reference to the recreational games also. The next hypothesis is that of somatic complaints that children usually have in these institutional care, especially with that of stomach pain, headache, and nausea that we see in these children. That also we have seen that there is no significant reduction. That is null hypothesis for that. Institutionalized children with cognitive deficit will not significantly reduce the somatic complaints among the recreational group as well as the control group, and then there would be no significant reduction in the social problems also in the neurolinguistic programming as well as the control group in these institutionalized children. No significant reduction in the social problems among the recreational games also. This, hypothesis 16 is institutionalized children with cognitive deficit among the neurolinguistic programming and the control group would not noticeably reduce the thought problems. Then institutionalized children with cognitive deficit among the recreational group and the control group would not differ significantly. The next one is the attention problem in institutionalized children. That also would not reduce significantly with either the recreational group or the neurolinguistic programming group. The same thing goes to the rule-breaking behaviors also. So all these are null hypotheses that are framed. Then this one, My null hypothesis 19 is there is no significant difference in the aggression of these children with either neuro-linguistic programming or recreational group. The individual resilience also among them would improve significantly, would not improve significantly with either neuro-linguistic programming or recreational group. No notable improvement would be seen with relationship resilience. There is contextual resilience also, it would be the same thing. Now, next thing will be the dependent variable that we are taking for the study. The dependent variable are under the cognition, levels of cognition, adaptive behavior, resilience, and maladaptive behavior. Cognition is measured through a testing tool called Wishler's testing tool, which is very popular. That has 4 indices. That is the verbal comprehension index, the perceptual reasoning index, working memory index, the processing speed index. All these put together gives a composite of full scale intelligence quotient. Then the VAPS 3 testing tool that measures the communication, social skills, daily living skills, motor skills as a adaptive behavior composite. And it also measures external maladaptive behavior and internal maladaptive behavior as an optional scale, which comes within. Next one is the resilience measure that I'm using child and youth resilience measure 28 by the Resilience Research Foundation. That has 3 indices in them: individual resilience, relationship resilience, and the contextual resilience. Next, we come to the 4th tool that is being used, that is the Ackenbeck's adaptive behavior checklist, which has got, which looks into the maladaptive behavior of children, which comes under 8 indices, that is anxiety depression, withdrawal depression, somatic complaints, social problems, thought problems, attention problems, rule breaking problems, and aggressive behaviors. Again, all these are all composites that we are talking about. So basically, these are 4 measures which gives you the multiple dimensions of a child's psychological status. Next is the independent variables. The 2 set of interventions here is neuro-linguistic programming and the recreational intervention. The research design of the study, researcher implemented a single-blind study with pre-test, post-test, randomized, pre-test, post-test, randomized group design. The intervention was scheduled for 12 weeks for regular neuro-linguistic programming and recreational games 3 times a week for the children living in institution, and then randomized assignment of these conditions in between the subject design. A fundamental element of experimental design was followed. So it also followed the experimental expectancy by allowing somebody else to do the testing. A systematic design of data collection and procedure was followed. Next one is a research design, the neuro-linguistic programming group and that of recreational groups with reference to the control group. So X is the t-test stage, and X1, Y1, and XY minus, X1, Y1 minus happens to be the post-test levels. XY minus is the control group which does not have any kind of intervention in this study. Next one, and I would like to mention that we followed a waitlisting kind of random design where all students get involved in the intervention, but they are not to be tested in the pre-test level. Even the control group children will undergo all these interventions, but they are not tested. Now, pictorial representation is the pre-test. Then we separate them into control group and experimental group. The control group has got two types of intervention, that is neuro-linguistic programming and recreational games. At the end of it, all the three groups will get the post-test values. Now, the nature of the sample, the study was conducted in a suburban Chennai, aided residential institutional care unit, where 206 children lived in this facility, out of which 78 girls could fit into the study criteria. That is, as I come to the study part, then I will tell you about how we found the cognitive deficit in children using Mishler's test, that is called as a general ability measure or general ability index, which involves only this one, verbal comprehension index, as well as the perceptual reasoning index only, and it does not have the processing speed as well as the working memory, because that is the higher cognitive levels that are involved. So with these two, children are given accommodations as well as they have given special needs in schools, like extra time and all that. So that is how they usually find. So we have used a similar thing to find cognitive deficit in this study. Also, the subjects were selected according to their age, that is between 8 to 16 years, their physical ability, because some of them were handicapped and were on wheelchair as well, their ability to read and understand the language instructions. So at least a minimum level of English need to be done. Most of them did know minimum level of reading English. They could understand well, though they were not able to express in English. So the age group of children were 8 to 16. They could read and understand English. Test material that was used was in English. The researcher often used local language to make sure that the subject understood the meaning before answering the questionnaire. These children were in the mainstream education as day scholars, and the subjects under study were in the present residential facilities for at least 1 year, and most of them have been residing here since birth. That is what was seen. Then schematic representation about the systematic procedure of sample collection in the institution. First is the experimental design, and then in the care unit, we divided them into these three, 25, 25, into each of the groups. That is the neuro-linguistic group, programming group, recreational group, and the control group. Next, the testing, as I mentioned, the testing tools that were involved. There are 4 testing tools. First is the Wishler's scale, intelligence scale, which has got verbal comprehension, perceptual reading, working memory, and processing speed. The composite of these are used as full scale intelligence. So all these 5 indices are used in the testing tool. Then next one is the Vineland adaptive behavior, that has got main domains of communication, daily living skill, socialization, motor skills, and maladaptive skill, which is in the an optional, which is an option. And then Tool 4 is the child resilience, youth resilience measure, that is from the Resilience Research Center, that shows that again measures them on 3 levels, that is the individual level, where the personal care, peer support, and the social skill of individuals are measured. Then how they are, next is the relationship level, where the physical caregiving of how they nurture other people around, as well as the psychological caregiving, how they are able to relate to others' pain, empathy, all these are measured. Again, contextual, as to how they relate to society, culture, education, as well as spiritual. So the next one is the child adaptive behavior checklist, which has got 8 categories: anxiety, depression, withdrawal, depression, somatic complaints, social problems, and thought, as well as thought, anxiety, attention, rule breaking, and aggression. Next one is a schedule of the neuro-linguistic program, which starts off with warming up exercise, rapport building, active communication, and learning styles, enhancing learning styles. Next one is the recreational games also has these kind of interventions where these kind of games that would enhance their social as well as communication abilities. Next is the general ability index, as I was mentioning. Okay. Okay. Hypothesis 1. In institutionalized children with cognitive deficit among the neuro-linguistic programming would grow differently, would differ significantly from the control group in verbal comprehension at the end of the intervention. Here we did the pre-test and then pre-test and post-test, the number of students that were involved. This is a mean value, 82.5. That was a mean value before starting the intervention, and they were in the range of 90.58 at end of the 12-week intervention. Okay. Next one is the verbal comprehension in children who have recreational games intervention. That their mean value was also in the same range of 82.56, which raised to 87.8 at the end of the intervention. Whereas the control group almost remained the same even in the end of the study. The next one is the verbal comprehension. Okay. Perceptual reasoning at the end of the intervention was also with the measure with the mean values and the p values in the end, where a significant difference was noticed between the pre and the post measures. Perceptual reasoning of the children in the recreational group also was measured with the same p value. Okay. The pre-test means and the post-test means were because indicated effectiveness of the intervention. Then researchers hypothesized that the institutional children with cognitive deficit among the neuro-linguistic program would differ significantly in this. I've used Wechsler's t-test because, Welch t-test because we found variances in the when we did the standard deviation. So that is why the p-value is with the assumption that there is variance in the group. Next is the hypothesis testing for working memory index. The same thing, we have used the p values for all of them with degrees of freedom and a calculated p value as well as the critical p value. With this, we have found that comparing the p value as well as the means with p and post, it is said that there is effectiveness of intervention. Wherever there was this p-value was not found significant, we have done both parametric, non-parametric tests also, where to find the significance, that is the goodness of fit, as well as crystal values is also carried out, but that is not in the presentation today. Again, this is the processing speed. Next would be the processing speed. Again, that is with the pre-test mean and post-test mean that is there. And it was found that the null hypothesis that was stated was that the institutionalized children with cognitive deficit in the recreational group would not differ that with the working memory of the control group was at the end of the intervention was rejected because we found the difference in the p-value. The hypothesis 4A was also about processing speed, and also with the control group where the p-value was measured as 5.07 with a difference of 6.26. So there was, it was more than 0.1, then 0.01, that's how it was accepted. Sorry, yes, the null hypothesis was accepted as it was less than 0.01, and it was less than the mean value that was obtained. Similar tables were made for the communication as well, and neuro-linguistic programming enhances communication in children and the language abilities in them, which is important for these children to develop because they have difficulty in socializing as well as communication. We found there is a marked difference in what how they were before the test to what they performed after test, with the p-values being 11.69 post-test, and that of with the difference of 5.96. That is the calculated p-value was 5.96, with the p-value that obtained was 11.69. Therefore, the directional hypothesis 6 states that neuro-linguistic programming has positive effect on communication when compared to control group is accepted. Next is the mean value of children who underwent recreational games intervention. The communication skills also changed from that of 77.19 to 86.88. With a p-value of 0.301. Therefore, the directional hypothesis was accepted. Again, the test had to be done to ascertain that. Next would be the communication skill, the socializing skill, the communication skill, and then socializing ability also. The pre-test value being 87.32 with standard deviation of 2.07. It has a p-value of 16.085 when compared to the control group, which is having 3.209. The pre-test post-test values with p-value 16.08 found the difference of difference of a mean value of 14.33 compared to 7.46 of the control group. With the same, with the recreational group also, where the mean value differed from 14.55 to 7.46 of the control group. The motor skills also improved significantly from 97.88 to 100.36. There was a little difference between them. The post test, the scores also showed changes. The maladaptive, external maladaptive behavior with mean value 16.68 got reduced to that of 9.552. There was a 0.045 p-value difference between the pre and the post measure when it was done, the t-tests, and that of the control group was 1.68. The internalized maladaptive behavior among these children was with a p-value of 15.87, and that of the control group was 0.241. The pre-test value of that of internalized maladaptive behaviors in recreational games was with the mean value of 16.72 to 9.86 and 68, or in the post intervention time, with a p-value of 17.38. There was at the end of intervention, where some of the variables that changed were that of communication, and then the daily living skill that changed towards the end of the intervention. Communication, the working memory and the processing speed continued to be very difficult for them to attain to. So this was, and resilience measure also changed to a very limited manner, which was not much of a significance in them. So the socializing, so with this, I conclude that the conclusions in this study were that with a cognition, adaptive behavior, the resilience and the maladaptive behavior, the students who the variables that showed difference were that of the verbal comprehension, socializing, the language development. The intervention that were done was effective only to a certain extent. Resilience measure was comparatively much lower, that of working memory and processing speed as well. Okay, so the conclusion was that the resilience measure had very minimal changes in them, especially contextual resilience, relationship resilience, and then the communication showed marked improvement. Socializing skills, as I mentioned earlier, showed marked improvement. The limitations of this study is that the 12 weeks was very 12 weeks of intervention seemed to be inadequate to bring in certain changes in the children living in the institutional care, especially when we look into the cognitive aspects. The marked changes, they are all in the lower average levels of or sub cognitive levels of learning. So they would need assistance and through my intervention, what I noticed was especially paper pencil activities and learning and retaining spellings, that of communication, especially non-verbal cues were much more. So there was a sense of inhibitions that I knew I could sense throughout the intervention that I was in. And then one more thing that was noticed throughout this study was that they were always, conscious of who is watching, what they are doing, and the attachment issues that they have. They were definitely people who were favorites of the caregivers, who would get special care from them. And organization, those are all things that were part and parcel of that system. And one thing that they really had difficulty was in maintaining, being organized and putting things together was something that they all had difficulties with. So with this, I would like the feedback from all of you, because so would you please give me your feedback or
Yeah. So
I would like to hand over to Shashank.
hello.
Yes, sir.
That's good. So in fact, I have mentioned in the chat box, well done. So I appreciate your hard work and also, your sincere efforts to bring about positive changes through NLP as well as recreational games. And you have come out with good methodology. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Yes, sir, yes, sir.
okay. Otherwise, I may have to raise my voice. Please be frank whether I can continue with the same pitch or you
Yes,
want
sir,
me
yes,
to
sir.
heighten
Yes,
my
enough.
pitch.
Yes, sir, yes, enough.
All right, thank you. So, in fact, I wish to place on record my appreciation for the great job done by Mrs. Vidya. Having said that, well, being a researcher, I would like to say a few things which I hope will be of some value to the candidate and also every other candidate doing PhD in sports university. The thing is actually introduction on my request has been cut short. In fact, based on my request, she proceeded to the problem statement. From there, she went on to each and every important aspect of methodology. I appreciate that. In fact, it is pretty clear that she would like to investigate the relative efficacy of NLP and recreational game on a set of dependent variables, which I think are classified into categories like cognitive functions, then resilience, and then adaptive and maladaptive behavior. Totally, I counted 24 variables, 5 cognitive, 3 resilience oriented, and 8 each on the adaptive and maladaptive aspects of behavior. To investigate the relative efficacy of NLP and recreational game on every one of these variables, well, she has adopted a very, very simple, but at the same time, pretty effective methodology of employing Welsh t-test. She has made a comparison between pre and post for every one of these variables pertaining to the 3 groups. X1 is NLP, X2 is recreational game, X3 control group. Here I'd like to make a small correction. In fact, I almost wrote that comment when I saw the slide. Generally, we equate X with the independent variable, Y with the dependent variable. Perhaps Mrs. Vidya can take note of this point so that she can correct this mistake as far as my perception goes.
Okay, sir.
Y always goes with the dependent variable. In fact, it appears to be a unifactorial design where intervention is the one and only independent variable, which is varied at 3 levels by coming out with 2 criterion groups and 1 control group. The first criterion group underwent training through NLP. The second criterion group had recreational game as intervention. The third group is Pakka control. So the intervention is what being investigated now for its efficacy. X manifests itself in 3 forms: X1 as NLP, X2 as recreational game, and devoid of X, what we say X3 group, which is control. Probably when I saw the slides, X goes with NLP, Y goes with recreational game, and minus X, Y goes with control. I think here some corrections need to be made. Probably I'll discuss it with Mrs. Vidya after the formal interaction gets over, because I myself should not, keep commenting. Probably we'll have to invite observations from other people also, because I feel there are a few scholars with already PhD added to their qualification. I am eagerly looking forward to their comments, and also the head of the department, Dr. Prem Kumar, is there, and naturally the supervisor with her wide experience as a researcher also may have something to contribute. Therefore, I do not want to monopolize the discussion part, but this is something which I feel Mrs. Vidya may have to look into. This is,
I will do it, sir.
yeah, number 1. Number 2, in fact, I was carefully seeing each and every table. Here I have 2 comments. The first comment, always comparison was made between pre and post across the 3 groups. Good. But I'll be very happy if Mrs. Vidya, of course, this need not be mentioned in the synopsis, because synopsis is the shorter version of the thesis. Probably it serves as a detailed abstract of what the researcher is going to present in the thesis. So in the synopsis, the researcher need not present all the details, but in the thesis, definitely the researcher will have to come out with 3 different comparisons. The first comparison, among the 3 groups, how the pre-intervention scores were distributed. whether there was any significant difference among the three groups on the pre-intervention scores. Because the researcher has gone for randomized group design, the randomization should take care of nullifying the individual differences, the group differences among the three conditions. In fact, if only the t values are not significant, then we can very well say that randomization had done its duty of nullifying the differences among the three groups. So comparison of the pre-intervention scores among the three groups, I think will have to be presented and will have to be discussed, and no proper conclusion has to be drawn saying that randomization was effective in making all the three groups, more or less the same, and whatever difference existed among them was not statistically significant. This point will have to be clearly brought out in the thesis. This is first set of comparisons. Second set of comparisons is what she has done extensively well between NLP and recreational game, between recreational game and control, between NLP and control. So on the post-intervention scores, this also has been done really well. But the third one, perhaps I don't know whether I missed it because there were so many tables. Probably at a later date, I'll have to enjoy assimilating the findings in my own pace of seeing whether there was any significant difference between NLP and recreational game. I think there should have been. She must have done this comparison, but this is also an important aspect of statistical analysis. So see that, these three aspects of statistical analysis are clearly brought out in the thesis so that, you will have more confidence while drawing the conclusion. Conclusion, after all, is an answer to the question that is raised in the problem. Probably tentatively based on, the assumptions, healthy assumptions, unbiased assumptions, you have come out with a set of hypotheses, which is what you have thoroughly tested with the help of sound methodology by using, pre, post intervention randomized group design. And the tools are definitely reliable and valid. In fact, I need to appreciate here that she has made attempts to bring out the tools which were recently standardized. In fact, those tools are not at all outdated tools. Therefore, I have absolutely no doubt about the reliability, validity, and applicability of those tools for the present condition. In fact, the pilot study has revealed it. So I have no qualms about the psychometric aspects of the tools. But all that I would like to say is that while drawing conclusion, you should be very careful of providing definite answer to the question that is raised in the problem. In fact, the hypotheses have been thoroughly tested, and all the salient features of the analysis will be, I think, beautifully elaborated in the discussion part of your thesis. But conclusion is the most important aspect of your thesis. While drawing conclusions, please see that you don't go overboard. Within the limitations of the study, draw the conclusions and come out with the limitations of your study on your own, so that people will not point out any mistake as if you are not aware of it. All right. And please highlight the implication at the end of your thesis. And if possible, probably make it possible to come out with suggestions for future study. That will be of help not only to you, but also to every reader who goes through your thesis with keen interest. So these are my observations, Mrs. Vidya, and hope you submit your thesis at the earliest. keeping all these points in mind and also the points which are going to be brought out following my feedback. Once more, let me have the joy of congratulating you on the great work done by you. But reporting is more important. If not more important, definitely is as important as the main work that you have done so far. Best wishes.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. I will keep these suggestions in mind. Thank you, sir.
Did I monopolize? I would like to know from the audience. Dr. Shahina and Dr. Premkumar, please let me know whether I just took all your time.
Hello.
Yeah, I want to hear the voice of almost every one of you.
Not at all, sir. You have explained very well about the thesis.
Thank you.
And yeah, as you rightly pointed out, and the Y should be noted as what dependent variable, sir, and X should be noted as independent variable. And I think then the scholar would have notified that. And Sagin, ma'am.
Yes, sir. So on behalf of the department,
No, I think Dr. Joshua has raised her hand.
Anita, yeah, please.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, we would
Yes,
like to
ma'am.
have
Can
some
you hear me?
inputs from you.
Yes. Very good afternoon to one and all gathered here. I am Dr. Anita, from working as a working as a lecturer in Department of Statistics. Okay, sir. First of all, I thank you for giving us wonderful inference from you, sir. I didn't expect such a statistician only used to give all this thing, but you have wonderfully given, Dr. Swaminathan, sir. Okay, thank you, sir. Sir, here I didn't hear her voice thoroughly because whatever she presented, no, I couldn't get it. 2 times I went out and then only I came back. So whatever the analysis part, what she explained, no, I didn't get it. But whatever the inference you are given, the point out, no, that only I can hear clearly. Okay, from that I can understand what she did for the research work. Okay, you pointed that randomization we need to check, isn't it, sir?
Yeah.
Sir, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear
yes.
you, Madam
For
Dr.
the
Anita.
pre-test, yes, you have mentioned that we have to check for the randomization, isn't it, sir? For the that's why we used to do ANOCOVA, analysis of covariance. In analysis of covariance, what we will do, I mean, first we'll usually compare the pre-test of all the 3 groups together, and we'll see whether there is any randomization is followed or not. After that only we go for the post-test. But she did T statistics, I think so. I didn't get the thing. I'll definitely see to that. She did the T comparison test only. So she didn't use any pre-test in a study or not, I don't know. I'll see to that. I'll make her clear, sir. When she presenting the thesis, that time I'll give my suggestion, definitely, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your positive response.
Yes. Then she has I don't know whether she has tested for normality. That test also we have to do it and see whether all the variables have followed a normal distribution. Then only we have to go for t-test,
Parametric test.
Parametric test. That I'll see, sir, whether she have done a normality test, and the pre-test also, whether she have compared all the group pre-test initial stage or all these things, I'll see. Okay. Thank you very much for this opportunity, sir. Thank you,
Wonderful.
Shayan ma'am.
Thank you,
Wonderful.
Anita, for your input. We will definitely.
But the network problem, I didn't get what she presented. The slides also I cannot see. Okay, so I will
Okay.
disturb with her.
Wonderful, Dr. Anita. Madam Mangerkarsi, Dr. Mangerkarsi Madam has raised her hand. Good afternoon, Madam. But before that, I'd like to just provide my observation to what Dr. Anita has said. In fact, she is absolutely right. In fact, we go for analysis of covariance whenever we have sort of pre-intervention, post-intervention score, because the correlation is bound to be there between pre and post-intervention score that has to be extracted, and that can be done through analysis of covariance, because there are three groups. At one stroke, you'll be able to see the efficacy of randomization on one hand, and also to an extent the efficacy of the intervention. And
Yes.
one thing I should tell you, Dr. Anita, in fact,
Yes,
I
sir.
had the joy of examining the data, and as far as my observation goes, I think the data are normally distributed. In fact, I was thoroughly checking whether there was more than one mode, because normal distribution is always unimodal, and mean median mode always will lie at the same point, preferably at the midpoint. And in fact, skewness was tested, and skewness was found to be absent. There was no significant skewness.
Okay, zero.
And also curtices, in fact, it was neither mesocurtic nor leptocurtic. And it was, it was neither platycurtic nor leptocurtic. Mesocurtices. In fact, moderately, the height of the curve was also there. In fact, she has done, she has checked normality by other statistical means also. In fact, only after thoroughly satisfying ourselves with the distribution as such, did we go for the parametric statistics. Very, very simple parametric Welch t-test, which is an offshoot of the student t-test. Student t-test. So normality, well, as far as my observation goes, has been, found to exist. So it is not non-normal. It is normal, more or less normal, because of the absence of skewness and also height of the curve, which indicates that it was neither leptocurtic nor platycurtic.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Yeah, but even then you can
check the thing. But you said you are checked all these things. Very good, sir. But using the SPSS also, we can check whether it is following normality or not. Because outliers should be removed. Then only we will get a good inference, sir.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. Absolutely right. Yeah, Mangerkarsi madam, I think, is there with her observation. Dr. Mangerkarsi ma'am, I think Dr. Shahin can hereafter take on from me, and I'd like to hear the voice of Dr. Mangerkarsi ma'am also. Nice meeting you, Dr. Anita.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon,
and
ma'am.
good afternoon, everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. Due to lack of connectivity, like more than 6-7 times I went out and get in. And it was not audible. I was just watching, but I couldn't. I could not able to listen it. First of all, I wanted to congratulate the guide and the scholars, because you might have traveled along with the scholar, and I wanted to greet both the scholar and the guide. For actually, this is the first time they are doing on NLP, I feel, neuro-linguistic program in the department. I wish Ms. Vidya and our guide, Dr. Shahin Nagman. That's all.
Wonderful, ma'am. Wonderful, ma'am, for your positive support.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Prem, can I conclude?
Yes, ma'am. Is there any other question? No.
I don't think.
Okay, ma'am. Congratulations to you and Ms. Vidya for your wonderful work. And of course, Professor Swaminathan sir has outlined the thesis in a very, very excellent manner. And really, the suggestions given by Professor Sami sir is very nice. And of course, I'm sure Ms. Vidya would incorporate all these suggestions in her thesis. Okay, ma'am, you can proceed, ma'am.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Prem Kumar. And just two more observations, Dr. Shahin.
Yes,
I'll
sir.
be very brief. In fact, I feel extremely happy to see Mrs. Vidya under your supervision and also with the academic support of every other faculty member, particularly the head of the department, Dr. Prem Kumar, and senior professor like Dr. Mangeher Karasi, and joining the bandwagon from statistics department, Dr. Anita. In fact, I wholeheartedly appreciate the administration of performance-based tests. In fact, this is what I keep insisting on whenever I meet scholars in psychology department. Please do not overstrain yourself and also the respondents with questionnaires. In fact, the questionnaire method will have to be supplemented with performance-based tests. In fact, Mrs. Vidya has done the job really well by including cognitive functions for which she has used Wechsler scale. I'm very happy about that. Along with this appreciation, just one word of caution come suggestion. Kindly follow the APA guidelines when you report your work in the thesis. So with this, I conclude thanking one and all, particularly the head of the department, Dr. Prem Kumar, senior professor, Dr. Mangeher Karasi, another professor from statistics department, Dr. Anita, and above all, my own fellow researcher, come the supervisor, come guide, Dr. Shahin. So I feel extremely happy to be with all of you for this academic exercise. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Okay. So on behalf of the Department of Sports Management, Sports Psychology and Sociology, so, I wish to propose my thanks to the whole department, starting from Dr. Prem Kumar. He had given us the permission to conduct this research, all that, and he was accommodating really because the change of dates, all that. So that was one thing. Then I would like to thank Dr. Mangeher Karasi, for being with us and right from the beginning, supporting her, supporting us, all that. And then I thank my other fellow colleagues also, Dr. Kannadasan, for being with me, for being with the scholar Lakshmanan, my other guest faculty, and then Anita, of course, who has given her suggestion in the statistics. So, where we can make the changes if it's, anyway, we would like to have a talk. We would like to have, one more discussion with our external subject expert probably, and then we will come back to you, Anita. And then I offer my thanks to my other, supporting people, Dr. Mano, Dr. Srinivas, without whom I think, this program would not have been conducted, because right from the beginning, right from 10 o'clock, we have been running from pillar to post. Because connection, we have very poor connection, as everybody is aware of it. And I wanted to start with an apology, but it is not good to start with a negative note. So that's the reason I wanted to thank. So I apologize every member who have been participating in this program, because there were a lot of disturbances. In terms of going out, coming out of it, of the site, and you had to again relocate to different the site. All those things were there. So because of this poor network, I apologize for that, because we have taken myself and the researcher have taken much of your time. Even the lunchtime also has prolonged to you all. So I apologize and thank one and all for being with us. And I thank the other faculty members who have been part of this program. So this is what, so definitely, I would like to thank Uma, who is really, come as a savior. Last minute, we wanted to do it another way, and last minute, when we were not successful, we had to take her help. Thank you very much, Uma, for giving us the timely support. I think, otherwise, we really, I had come to a conclusion, where we had to, postpone the meeting or something like that. Thank you very much, Uma. So I think, so this is so whatever changes, whatever suggestions have been put forth by the external subject expert and Dr. Anita. So we would definitely incorporate all those changes in our work and get back. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, one and all. And I thank Dr. Swaminathan being with us right from 4 years of study, right from day one till this day. So who have been a part and parcel of this work. So thank you very much, sir. At every stage, my scholar was troubling you and I was troubling you. So you were totally indebted to us in giving us your suggestion. So I really, look forward for my other candidates also, if the university permits. Thank you very much, sir, for the support, for the guidance, whatever you have given till now. And I also look forward for you, for your support. Thank you very much.
Definitely, that is assured. My support is always assured.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Prem, can we wind up? Dr. Prem?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Wish you a good day. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.